Just spend a little bit of time unpacking the professional standards legislation and taking the segue from recognising excellence in education. And I'm also going to share with you some landmark research that were undertaken to help inform and shape the professional standards debate. But before I do, I thought I'd share a recent experience to set the context of why we are talking about this. And I felt humbled that just recently I was asked to deliver 2 guest lectures at a university. And I was pretty humbled, and I was also pretty excited because I was going to go back to university and I didn't quite know what to expect. And so I'm sitting in the lecturer's office, and they had this really big textbook in there. And it was really, really complex. There was stuff in it about the Insurance Contracts Act, and there was stuff in there about the Corporations Act and portfolio construction, and it was hard. And so we were having a chat about this, and then we moved into the lecture theatre. And there was about 60 students, the brightest university students who are going to be the next generation of financial advisors. And I'm sitting in there, and they do a little quiz at the start just to see how everyone's going and test their knowledge. And that too was really, really hard. I got about 1 out of 10. It was on testamentary trusts and some estate planning and some taxation, and it was complex. So there's about 60 students there, and I thought, well, I better get to know my audience. And so hands up, who wants to be a financial advisor when you graduate? And you know the answer to the story, right? It was 3. 3 people out of 60 wanted to become a financial advisor. And a couple of days later, I went into the postgraduate lecture theatre, and the same thing happened. And I asked, how many of you want to be a financial advisor? And the answer was 5. 5 people out of 60 wanted to become the very thing that they were studying. It's nuts. And so it led me to this question is, well, what actually makes a great financial advisor? And afterwards, we're sort of talking to some of the students, and I said, well, what do you want? And they said, clearly a job. Can you help me find one? Sure. But why did you study this? Why did you study financial advising? And the answer was the same. I thought it was about helping people. This is probably the experience that you have every day in your office, about helping people. It led me to just start wondering as to why is it that we're actually not accelerating people's expertise and teaching them how to truly help people? And so what does make a great financial advisor? Well, we asked you earlier today. We said, is it some of the reputation and your technical skills? Is it your service? And DJ Mike, let's get the answers up on the screen. This is what you answered, as skilled practitioners. And it's overwhelming. Like nearly 2/3 of the room said that the attribute and the things that your clients value the most from you is your interpersonal and communication skills. And that's been consistent all across the country. And congratulations, Andrew Lowe from Challenger. Yes, there are some people who do value technical skills and knowledge. You've got to stop voting for yourself. You probably have this situation where clients come and sit down and they tell you their problem, and it's through your skill and your expertise that you pull back layers of the onion and you actually realize that what they're first telling you isn't the actual true problem. It's not the emotional drivers. And it's your skill and expertise that actually gets to the heart of what the real problem is. It's their bias that's been built up through years of their experiences. And here's the disconnect, right? We have an education pathway that is not reflective of what happens in your office. We have an education pathway that's reflective of the things that your clients are saying that they value the most from you. And we've got an education pathway in universities to learn and skill the next generation of financial advisors, and it's not what they want. It's crazy. It's nuts. This is not a new phenomenon. In 2013, we did some research with Beddoes Institute and Zurich, and we said to the clients of existing practitioners, what's the thing that they value the most out of the existing relationship? And it's still the same. So from 2013 to today, the very thing that your clients are asking for, we don't teach. We kind of tack it on at the end in this quasi way. We kind of do it in PD days, and we call it client engagement. But where do we formally embed and accelerate the expertise of the next generation of financial advisors to get to a point that you have had a lifetime to build up? And we stand on this threshold right now, this inflection point with higher education and professional standards, and we've got an opportunity to do something about it. In fact, we've got an opportunity, and this is the positive in the story, to actually build the next generation of financial advisors and to redefine and rethink what we want them to learn and to put into practice. Every piece of legislation that I've read over the last number of years starts off with the same sentence. It says, to help build consumer confidence in the financial services sector. Every bit of legislation that we adapt to has the same intent. And it's so true. With professional standards legislation, the intent's the same. So how do we use this as an opportunity to grow the demand of financial advice and to shift the perception of how people perceive what we do in practice? So there's the challenge. This is what I think we need to do about it. Start a revolution in financial advisor education. So let's spend a couple of minutes on the detail around professional standards. Licensees have been doing an amazing job over the last couple of years to help build an awareness of this. And the critical thing here is that we now need to take a little bit of independent self-responsibility and self-accountability to listen to what the licensees and the messages are and how it affects you and the decisions that you are going to make for the future. So there's 5 elements of the professional standards legislation. The first thing to note is that they are all interdependent of each other. They have to work together. And the new Financial Advisor Standards and Ethics Authority, they've got a really big challenge. They have to put a lot of the detail around these 5 elements in a short amount of time. So they're going to have to come to industry, come to our profession, and they're going to have to collaborate. They're going to have to listen to our voice as to what is really needed. So the 5 elements of the legislation is that there is a degree entry into our profession. It's a degree equivalent if you are an existing practitioner. And I know one of the bits of uncertainty, one of the answers that we are waiting for is, well, what does equivalent actually mean? The second part of the second element of the legislation is once you've got your degree, well, then you need to go through a professional year. You need to just put yourself in practice and learn how to do it. And once you've finished your professional year, then you need to pass a registration exam. A really important thing to note is that the registration exam for existing practitioners is something that we all have to do. We all have to do the registration exam. What's in the registration exam is where we need to hear your voice and help shape and inform FASIA to make that decision. So, a degree entry into our profession, a professional year, a registration exam. We then have a code of ethics into a code monitoring scheme, the 4th element. And then we undertake a consistent level playing field of continuous professional development. We've already got these 5 elements. In some shape or way or other, they already exist. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is going to be how we operationalise these things. And this is where rethinking and redefining will actually make a significant difference. Because if all we do is take what already exists and make it harder, then we actually miss this wonderful opportunity to build something that's reflective of the conversations that you are having in your practice. So let's ask you. We've been taking this poll around the country. Grab your phones. Let's open the poll mic. What should be in the registration exam? Should we have some degree of technical information? Yes, no, or sure. And you can text it in to that number or jump onto the URL. A, B, or C, that's right. So let's get the results up there, Mike. This is what you think. And we'll aggregate all these results and we'll share it to you around the country. And your response is pretty consistent with everybody else's. All right, we'll close that off in 3, 2, 1. So here's the timeline of events, and we'll send you this information. What's important here for existing practitioners is really 2 key points. Is that one, we are all going to have to do a registration exam, and the second part is the end date for these changes is 2024. But that's not where it ends. The end date is when it becomes too hard, too challenging. The pressure becomes too much to achieve this degree equivalency and have to do all of the other things that you have to do as a practitioner. And if you're sitting there at the very height of your professional career, one of the easy things to do is might just say, well, this doesn't affect me because I've got till 2024. The thing I'd ask you to consider is, what's the legacy that you're going to leave to the next generation of financial advisors? Are you going to invest in the people in your practice to make them better, grow their demand for their financial services? So this affects us all, and we all have a responsibility to get on this trajectory that we are already on and can't get off. So we have an opportunity to rethink and redefine what we want advisors to learn and to put into practice. And we have the mechanism to do it, to influence these interdependent 5 elements of the professional standards legislation. And to do that, we're undertaking some landmark research that's going to fill a gap in the marketplace. And it's going to go back to what we've just asked you as to what is the attribute that your clients value the most. And so we've already started this research. We're into phase 2. We're doing it in conjunction with the Beddoes Institute and 2 of our research partners, Astron Life and Kaplan Professional. And what this research is going to do is it's going to zero in on not only the technical knowledge that is required, but also the attitudes and the behaviours that make such a great financial advisors. And to my friends in the media there, this is not to say that we don't need technical skills and knowledge. It's just to say, why don't we rethink it and do both? Because we have the Andrew Lowe's of the world to go and find the answer to the technical things that we need to put into our SOAs. And it's by no mistake that we have Dr. Joanne Earle, a psychologist, here to balance that up. We currently have a patchwork of different landscapes that it doesn't quite all fit together. It changes from licensee to licensee. So how do we take what we already have and actually start to knit together a comprehensive, integrated landscape? So far, we've interviewed 40 CEOs of licensees, of the big institutions, the smaller boutiques, and the ones in the middle. Regulators, other professional bodies, and consumers, and we've done 40 qualitative interviews. And phase 2 is now forming an expert panel. Do you know who's on the expert panel? You. We're going to bring together all of the industry and form a collaborative consensus view of what you think defines it. So on your feedback forms today, there is one question which all of us have a vested interest to answer. It is, do I want to be part of the expert panel? Do I want to participate in a consensus model that helps define the future of financial advisor education? Hundreds are already registered. That's not enough. We need hundreds more. And it's we're going to take your voice and use it to help inform and educate the Financial Advisor Standards and Ethics Authority to form a collaborative, consensus, industry-wide view of what's required of a financial advisor for the future. I guess at the center of it is to balance all the good stuff you do with your clients financially, but also emotionally. So if we all have to undertake a little bit of further education and higher education, how are we going to help? Well, firstly, we need to recognise and be empathetic to advisors who maybe haven't gone back to formal study for some time. And to help and to support, we need to create a culture of success. And the best way to do that is to do it together in communities of practice, to help people who haven't been back into a formal environment along the way. So here's a snapshot of the proportion of our profession that we're talking about. 25%, their highest education qualification is the Diploma of Financial Planning. 21% is the Advanced Diploma. It's just under 50% of us is going to have to undertake something. So it's important that we create a culture of success and build upon the momentum that we're already in. When we started the Fellow Chartered Financial Practitioner, we did two things with intent right from the start. Build it from the lens of a practitioner, to grow the demand for your financial advice, and to create a pathway into a higher education post-graduation environment. So you get one-for-one credits into the Masters of Financial Planning. The success and the number of enrolments has been outstanding, so thank you and congratulations to all of those people who are already on the journey. Two things what I want to just highlight to actually help us along is that recently Mark and I were in Kuala Lumpur and the Asia Pacific Financial Services Association, and we signed a historic memorandum of understanding with the European Financial Planning Association. And this is the start of the process to recognise the Fellow Chartered Financial Practitioner in Europe, but also to take the European Financial Planning Association designations and recognise them here. And delighted to say that they're coming to Sydney in 2018 for the Asia Pacific Financial Services Association AGM to see the very best of what you do on a world stage. And the last point that I just would like to highlight is some work that Kaplan, our education partner, have been doing with the University of New South Wales about a competency diagnostic, where we can actually zero in on maybe just the gaps in some knowledge. And rather than having to do things from the start, to actually just help and encourage financial advisors to fill the gaps in their knowledge. And this is really important when we think about the context of what we're going to put into the registration exam. So the message is simply this. Start now, do your research, bring together your peers, and think how we can rethink and redefine what we want the future generation of financial advisors to learn and to put into practice. And to finish, I'll just leave you with a quick little video that we built of the FCHFP.
In our rapidly changing world, the lessons of experience can sharpen our intuition but hide new opportunities and directions. The needs of consumers has changed, markets are evolving, and the way we do business is being transformed in ways we never thought possible. The pace of change is accelerating, and our environment is becoming more unpredictable. Financial advice is also changing. To adapt and thrive requires new knowledge and continuous investment in learning and development. A willingness to share, collaboration, understanding that the emotional side of financial advice is just as important as the financial, providing more than just the best advice, but providing the best advice for your clients. Higher education and professional standards will change how we think about what advisors should learn and practice. The Fellow Chartered Financial Practitioner establishes new thinking for a new profession and is the fastest growing professional designation for financial advisors. The innovators, the intellectually curious, the practitioners that think big and see the possibilities beyond the horizon. Becoming a Fellow Chartered Financial Practitioner prepares you to meet the changing needs of consumers today, but also prepares you for the changes yet to come. Be your future self today. Become a Fellow Chartered Financial Practitioner.